So I just finished The Last of Us Part 2, and after finishing the game, I feel empty. I feel depressed. This game opened my eyes more than The Last of Us Part 1. Both games are good in their own nature, but Part 2 put more of a toll on me than what the first game has done. Both games are 10 out of 10, but The Last of Us Part 2 is a 20 out of 10. The way the story impacted me versus the first one hits me so differently. I mean, just to start, the gameplay is addicting for both games, mainly the second one. The combat is impeccable, and the story put me through so much distress. It made me feel like I was actually in the game. It made me feel like I was actually Ellie, Abby, and Joel. And in this video, I'm going to explain why I feel this way. Now, I started with the first one, obviously, and this was the first time in a while I sat down and played a game all the way through without taking many breaks or the game taking me forever to finish. I love this game. I enjoyed it. And mind you, I watched the show first, then played the game, and I have to say, I enjoyed both the show and the game. And I love the subtle differences between the two. But that's besides the point. I just love how The Last of Us Part 1 follows the story of Joel, a man who was a single dad trying to make ends meet while having a daughter named Sarah and a brother named Tommy. And I love how the show goes more in depth about Joel's life. Now we open up the game to Joel's daughter Sarah, sleeping on the couch, and as we see Joel walk in on the phone with his brother Tommy about his job, we then cut to Sarah waking up and giving Joel a birthday present, which is a new watch. Now, as Sarah and Joel enjoy the night watching Joel's favorite movie, Sarah falls asleep, and after the movie is over, Joel carries Sarah to her bed, and then flash forward a few hours later, Sarah gets a call from Tommy asking for Joel. Fast forward some time, we see Joel rush into the house looking for Sarah. Then we get to the car looking for a way to escape disaster after disaster. Joel and Tommy get separated. Sarah gets hurt, and Joel and Sarah are approached by a Fedra soldier who shoots both Joel and Sarah. And although Joel is not hurt, Sarah has been shot. And as you all know, Sarah dies. We fast forward 20 years, where I met with Joel again. We see Joel as a smuggler with his partner Tess, and they are met by Marlene, and she has a girl with her whose name is Ellie, and our job as the player is to control Joel and get Ellie across the country to the Fireflies, because as it turns out, Ellie is immune to the infectious disease that's going on. And throughout the game, after some of the allies you meet like Tess, Henry, and Sam dies, it's just you and Ellie. And as the game progresses, we see Joel really start to care for Ellie. We see this man who's bitter, a man who's lost his own daughter, a man who even cut ties with his own brother, a man who's killed innocent people, a man who did all this just to survive. We see a man who lost everything, learn to love again. And it gets you, the player, emotional about how these two become like a father and daughter. We see Joel open up more and more to Ellie. We see Ellie open up to Joel. We see these two strangers care for each other, and how Joel becomes super protective of Ellie. And one scene that hits me the most about Ellie is how Ellie tells Joel everyone that she ever loved has either died or left her. Everyone except for Joel. And this hits you, the player, super hard.
Not her, you know.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
And
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel. But I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure am your dad. And we are going our separate ways.
We see this kind-hearted girl, the girl who tells her funny puns, the girl who gives us supplies randomly during gameplay when she notices Joel needs help, the girl who, during gameplay, sees Joel in trouble, takes her switchblade and stabs the guy who's hurting Joel by yelling, "Don't touch him!" Us, as a player, we grow a connection with this girl throughout the game. We see her share her sadness about how much she cares about Joel. We even see Ellie screaming for us not to leave. Tess behind after she's bitten. Furthermore, we see a girl who just wants people to love and care for her. This girl opening up to Joel, and we see Joel couldn't accept it at first, but then we see Joel really accept Ellie into his life. Slowly but surely, we see Joel growing to care for Ellie with subtle hints, like when the part Joel, Ellie, Henry, and Sam are separated, we see Joel scream for Ellie, trying to make sure she's safe. What we see is a man who learned to love again, and in the Left Behind DLC, we see Ellie feeling the same way about Joel after Joel was impaled. We see Ellie helping Joel, dragging Joel on a horse to an abandoned house, mending to him, making sure he stays alive. We see Ellie risking her life against hunters trying to hurt Joel and Ellie. And we see Ellie is relentless when killing these men because she doesn't want anything to happen to Joel. And after Joel gets better, after Ellie retrieving the medicine in an abandoned mall, after seeing Ellie having flashbacks about her best friend dying, we can sense Ellie doesn't want to lose anyone else. We see this girl lost enough, and as we see Ellie in the helicopter hugging the first aid kit, reminiscing on the last day she had with Riley, we can see Ellie is determined to save Joel's life. We see that this girl will not lose anyone else. Now, as Joel is healing up, we cut to Ellie, hunting and finding food for them to survive. Ellie runs into a group of hunters who turn out to be cannibals. And again, I love how the show expanded on this part more about the group the cannibals were with. But as we know, Ellie is kidnapped by the cannibals. And by Ellie using her smart thinking and using her immunity as a distraction, she's able to escape and kill one of the cannibals. Now, as the building is burning, we see Ellie fighting for her life. And we all know what the disgusting man David tries to do to Ellie. We see Ellie kill the man. We see Joel hugging and comforting Ellie, telling her it's okay, as Ellie cries in his arm, telling Joel what the sick man tried to do.
He tried to...
Oh, baby girl. It's okay. It's okay.
Joel.
It's okay.
During this part of the game, we, as the player, really see what the father and daughter relationship Joel and Ellie have. And it just shows how much Joel has changed from being such a sad and bitter man to learning to accept people into his life and learn to love again. Now again, we fast forward to Joel and Ellie arriving at the Firefly Hospital. Before we see Joel trying to perform CPR on unconscious Ellie after drowning, and we see Joel gets knocked out by a Firefly soldier. Next, as Joel wakes back up and we meet Marlene again, she tells us Ellie is in surgery and that in order to make a vaccine, Ellie will have to die. The next thing that happens is Marlene orders the soldier to escort Joel, and Joel, not letting this happen, fights back against the soldier and starts by killing everyone in the hospital and saving an unconscious Ellie. We then see Marlene one last time begging Joel to change his mind. We see Joel kill Marlene, stating that if you let Marlene go after Marlene begged for mercy, we see Joel say, "If I let you go, you'll just come after Ellie." And just like that, Joel shoots Marlene, killing her in the process. Now, we pan to Joel driving in a car on the way to Jackson to go back to Tommy, and as Ellie wakes up as the drugs wear off, she asks what happened with the Fireflies. Next, we see Joel telling a lie, telling her that there was no cure, and the Fireflies were bad people.
Back in Boston? Back when I was bitten? I wasn't alone. My best friend was there. And she got bit too. We didn't know what to do. So... she says... let's just wait it out. You know, we can be all poetic and just lose our minds together. I'm still waiting for my turn.
Ellie.
Her name was Riley, and she was the first to die. And then it was Tess, on Sam.
None of that is on you.
You don't understand.
I struggled for a long time with surviving. And no matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
And just like that, as we see Ellie trusting Joel in what he says, the game ends. Now this game was very straightforward. Going into it, we expected a basic game with Joel and Ellie finding a cure to save humanity with the happy ending of the disease being gone and society going back to normal, with ways for a sequel to be set up and add a new problem for Joel and Ellie to face and conquer. But this game took a different turn. With Joel not wanting to let go, we see how Joel looks at Ellie as a daughter, and how Joel already lost one daughter. We could see this heartbroken man not wanting to lose another daughter, put humanity at risk just to save one person. Now on paper, we know what the right option is, but ask yourself, if you were in Joel's situation, would it be as easy to give up someone you love after having already lost so much? Ellie wakes up in her dormitory at a federal military school in Boston. She's startled by Riley, who's been missing for weeks. Riley playfully scares Ellie, then reveals she joined the Fireflies, the rebel group fighting against Fedra. Ellie is angry and hurt by Riley's disappearance, but softens when Riley invites her on a surprise outing. The two sneak out of the school at night, navigating rooftops and abandoned buildings in a QZ. Along the way, they bicker and catch up, hinting at the close bond they once shared. Riley mentions her frustration with Fedra's oppressive rules, explaining why she joined the Fireflies. Back in the present, Ellie leaves Joel in a makeshift shelter and ventures into the mall to find supplies. She explores a damaged pharmacy, hoping to find medicine. Inside, she discovers an infected pharmacist locked in a storage room, but can't access the medical kit she needs. Ellie uses her knife to take down the infected pharmacist and retrieves the key to a locked storage area. However, the supplies she finds are either expired or useless. Frustrated but determined, she presses on. Encountering hunters patrolling the area, Ellie sneaks past or fights them, scavenging resources to survive. In the flashback, Riley leads Ellie to an abandoned mall. They enter through a window, laughing and joking about Fedra's restrictions. Riley shows Ellie a surprise. The mall still has some functioning attractions. The first stop is a carousel. The girls ride the merry-go-round, enjoying a rare moment of joy as the music plays. They talk about their futures, with Riley admitting she doesn't know if joining the Fireflies was the right choice. Next, Riley takes Ellie to a photo booth. They take silly pictures, choosing goofy poses, and teasing each other about how they'll look. Ellie treasures the photos, showing the deep affection between the two. Ellie discovers a crashed medical helicopter suspended above the mall's atrium. She devises a way to climb up and reach it, navigating collapsed walkways and gaps along the way. Ellie encounters a mix of infected and hunters, forcing her to alternate between stealth and combat. Eventually, Ellie reaches the helicopter. Inside, she finds a first aid kit with the supplies she needs. She carefully climbs down and starts making her way back to Joel, but more enemies appear, creating more challenges for her to overcome. The flashback continues with Riley and Ellie exploring the mall, but the mood becomes tense when Riley reveals she's being sent to a new Firefly post, meaning she'll leave Boston soon. Ellie is hurt and angry, accusing Riley of abandoning her. Riley tries to explain that she doesn't have much of a choice and wanted to see Ellie one last time. To lighten the mood, Riley brings out water guns, and the two have a playful fight. The tension melts away as they laugh and reminisce about their childhood together. Riley finally admits that she's scared of leaving, but also doesn't want to give up on what the Fireflies stand for. Ellie, overwhelmed by emotion, asks Riley to stay. Riley agrees. In a pivotal moment, Ellie impulsively kisses Riley. Riley is surprised but happy, and the two share a brief, tender moment of realization about their feelings for each other. Before they can process what just happened, their joy is interrupted by the sound of infected swarming the mall. The two girls fight side by side, trying to escape. They manage to kill several infected, but both are bitten during the chaos. They retreat to a quiet spot in the mall, shaken and devastated by what happened. Sitting together, Riley proposes they face their fate together. She rejects the idea of suicide, suggesting they embrace their final moments. She says, "We don't quit," and encourages Ellie to make the most of the time they have left. They hold on to each other, waiting for an affection to take them.
What are we gonna do?
The way I see it, we got two options. Option one, you take the easy way out. It's quick and painless. I'm not a fan of option one. Two, we fight.
Fight for what? We're gonna turn into one of those things.
There are a million ways we should have died before today. And a million ways we can die before tomorrow. But we fight for every second we get to spend with each other. Whether it's 2 minutes or 2 days, we don't give that up. I don't want to give that up. My vote, let's just wait it out. You know, we can be all poetic and just lose our minds together.
What's option 3?
Sorry. Come on. Let's get out of here.
The story shifts back to the present. Ellie returns to Joel with the medical supplies she found. Carefully stitching his wound, she refuses to give up on him, despite the odds stacked against them. The effort is exhausting, but Ellie's determination to save Joel reflects the lessons she learned from her time with Riley. The DLC ends on a bittersweet note. Riley's fate is implied. Ellie survived her bite due to her immunity, but Riley did not. The experience deeply shaped Ellie, leaving her with a mix of guilt and strength that drives her forward. Her journey in the present shows how far she's come since losing Riley. Through flashbacks to her time with Riley, Ellie's deep loyalty and devotion to those she loves is highlighted, showing how her experience with Riley shaped her. It's a painful yet profound story of love, resilience, and the choices that define us, even when faced with loss and hardship. Now, in my opinion, The Last of Us Left Behind is the greatest coming-of-age story ever told in a video game or in fiction, because it tells the story of two friends in a post-apocalyptic world, still finding joy in a bleak world against all odds, because the world they live in, where infected reign the earth and Fedra is the only government that stands, and when you reach the age of 16, they require you to join, or how Ellie's friend Riley up and leaves and joins the Fireflies, leaving Ellie in Fedra school by herself. Then comes back to spend time with Ellie, to go to an abandoned mall at a time when she shouldn't be out. And Riley shouldn't be there because she joined the Fireflies. And by spending the night with Ellie, because Ellie didn't know Riley was going away the next day. And they bond and unveil truths just for both of them to get bit, and Ellie finding out she's immune, and for Riley, her best friend, to die. Starting the beginning of a never-ending battle of Ellie's never-ending cycle of survivor's guilt and violence and loss. And I do have another video on my channel going more in depth. If you guys would like to watch it, please check it out. Now, we can talk about The Last of Us Part 2. After playing The Last of Us Part 1 on PC, the game left me stunned. I wanted more. I wanted more out of the Last of Us universe, and I was devastated that when I found out part 2 wasn't on the PC. I couldn't wait to play such a game. So I went out and bought a PlayStation 5 at a pawn shop. Then after work, I headed over to Walmart anticipating to play this game. I got the game and got some snacks, and I was gonna pull an all-nighter and play this game in one night. And who'd know that that didn't happen. This game is not like the first one. This game is 30 hours long in gameplay, and The Last of Us Part 1 is like a 12-hour game. So instead of playing this game all the way through with no sleep, wouldn't be wise, because I wanted to get as much out of it as I could. Now, we get to the story of the game. The game follows after the events of The Last of Us Part 1. We open up the game with Joel and Tommy having a conversation about Ellie being immune and how Joel told Tommy the lie he told Ellie about what went down in the hospital.
I was supposed to take her to the Fireflies and walk away. You go halfway across the country with someone. She needed her immunity to mean something. Maybe I was starting to buy into that old cure business. Maybe I just wanted to do right by her. And then we made it. We found the Firefly. Because of her, they were actually going to make a cure. The only catch, it would kill her. Sweet Jesus.
Doctor?
What are you doing? I won't let you take her. This is our future. Think of all the lives we'll save.
Jesus Christ, Joel. What do you do?
I saved her.
Tommy agrees with Joel's methods, and after that conversation, we begin riding off into Jackson from Tommy and Joel's patrol. And the way the game looks so beautiful. The amount of what they were able to work with on the PS4 is so stunning and such a mesmerizing way to start a video game. Next, we cut to Joel entering Ellie's room to tell her a joke told by Tommy. He forgot, but starts playing guitar, and this scene made me sad. It really showed me how much Joel cared about Ellie.
Late and I gotta get up in a few hours.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get out of your hair. Just, I want to show you something. Just give me 1 second.
What's this?
Some folks call this thing here a guitar.
Funny.
You want to hear something?
Okay.
Okay. Promise me that you won't laugh.
I won't laugh. I won't.
I'm trusting you. If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. Everything I have found here, I'm not found by myself. Try and sometimes you'll succeed. to make this man of me. All my stolen missing parts I've no need for anymore. 'Cause I believe, and I believe 'cause I can see our future days, days of you and me.
As Joel sang Future Days to Ellie, this song symbolizes how much Joel cares for Ellie and how it will make him feel if Joel was ever to lose Ellie. It really ties into the first game of how Joel couldn't let Ellie die in the hospital and how it led to Joel doing what he did. And I love the soundtrack for this game. If you pay attention, you can hear Ellie listening to the original songs that she sings on the soundtrack. For example, if you listen to what Ellie is listening to on her Walkman before Joel walks into her room, you can hear her listening to Sean James Through the Valley. Now, since this game is way longer than the first one, I'm going to cut around and super summarize certain parts. Now, the screen goes black and opens up the story the same way the first game did, by the screen cutting to black and showing the Last of Us title screen with ominous music playing. This time, instead of the game's theme music like the first one did, and I feel like this is trying to let us know early on that this is the story we're not expecting. Now, as the frame shows a sleeping Ellie, we see that the game cuts to 4 years later. Now, as we see an adult Ellie waking up ready to go on patrol, she opens the door to a new character whose name is Jessie. Jessie tells Ellie that she's late for patrol and about last night. And honestly, I love the scene of just Jessie teasing Ellie about kissing Dina, pretending he didn't know what happened.
It's me. It was just Dina being Dina. She didn't mean anything by it.
I was talking about your fight with Seth. Wait, you kissed Dina?
Oh. I thought this...
We're broken up 1 week and you make a move on my girl?
No. She was probably just trying to make you jealous. I would never... This is awkward.
I'm messing with you, man. I don't care. Get dressed.
You're the worst.
And it's hilarious seeing Ellie trip up like this. So, as Ellie heads out on patrol with her friend Jessie, Jessie talks about the Seth incident and how Seth called Ellie a not-so-kind word. Now, we see Ellie head over to a bar to talk to Maria, telling her that Seth would like to apologize about last night. As Ellie is still upset about it, she doesn't accept his apology or his sandwiches, and gives them to Jessie, who kindly accepts. Now, we see Ellie head over to Dina, where she is playing with children in the snow. So as Ellie and Dina talk about the night before, a kid throws a snowball at Ellie. So Dina asks Ellie if she would like to challenge the kids. Ellie accepts, and after winning the snowball fight, it's time for patrol, after Jessie gives his speech about safety. The screen cuts to black, and we switch perspectives with someone else, an unknown character. We see her wake up, maybe from a nightmare, and as she wakes up, she turns around and sees a man staring out the window. So as they talk, the man says he wants to show her something. So as they keep walking, the guy, whose name is Owen, shows the girl, whose name is Abby, the town of Jackson. And as Owen tries to talk Abby out of something, she decides to make her way to Jackson alone without the group. She came on a mission to kill Joel. And as she makes her way through the blizzard, she is ambushed by hordes of infected. And when she's pinned down with no way out, she is saved by Joel and Tommy. Now, as they run away, they make it to a building. Tommy tells their names, and this has Abby shook, since Joel is the person Abby is supposed to kill. So, as they fight their way through the horde, Abby tells Joel and Tommy about her friend staying in an abandoned mansion. So after they regroup at the mansion, Tommy introduces himself and Joel, and as everybody looks at Joel saying, "It seems like you guys heard of me before," we see Abby shoot Joel in the leg, and her friend hitting Tommy with the gun, leaving him unconscious.
Laura, all clear?
He's out. Put him against the wall.
Tommy! Get off me! Get off me!
Puta madre.
Joel Miller.
Who are you?
Guess.
Why don't you say whatever speech you got rehearsed? Get this over with.
Tourniquet his leg. Do it.
Us, as a player, are in shock. It leaves us fueled by rage at the person we're playing as, with some of us asking, why is she doing this? Then, as Abby starts beating Joel with the golf club, torturing him, we cut back to Ellie and Dina, caught in the act by Jesse in Eugene's house. Ellie and Dina are both embarrassed, but learn from Jesse that Tommy and Joel didn't show up to their patrol, which leaves Ellie more concerned than Dina and Jesse. So, as Ellie travels through the blizzard looking for Joel and Tommy, she stumbles across the mansion. Abby and her friends are torturing Joel inside. Ellie hears screams coming from the basement, and as she enters the house, she sees Joel being tortured by Abby and Tommy unconscious. Ellie is attacked by one of Abby's friends. Ellie manages to get a slice out of him with her switchblade, but is soon pinned down, forced to watch as Abby kills Joel.
You got her! Look, you got her! Okay?
Die!
What's going on?
Let him go!
Who is that?
Let him
She
go!
snuck in.
Why aren't you posted up outside?
We didn't think anyone was gonna show up.
What the hell did you expect? We gotta get out of here before the whole town's on top of us. You're done.
You want what I want, right?
End it. Now.
Joel, get up. Joel, get up. Please stop. Please don't shoot. Joel, please get up.
This scene really hit me. It made me sad, watching a beloved character you played as and seeing grow into a better person than he was before. And it hurt watching Ellie yelling at Abby to please stop and crying as she watches the man who is the father figure to her being brutally killed. It leaves Ellie furious along with the player, and I've come to the conclusion why this death hit so hard. Obviously, it made players furious and caused people to boycott the game. But why? Well, because we saw Joel die, the first person we played as in the first game. It obviously hits hard, but in many pieces of fiction, main characters die. For example, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure kills off the main character, but this doesn't upset many fans, like Joel's death in The Last of Us Part 2. No, this death impacts us and makes us sad and hits so close to home because Joel is a part of us. In one podcast with Troy Baker, who plays Joel in both games, said something that stuck with me. He said, the most traumatic thing was being born, because when we're born and come out of our mother's stomach, we have to change the way we breathe, the way we grow, the way we live. We're literally ripped from a person and forced to change how we live, and this relates to his character, Joel. As for when Joel died, it's like a piece of us was ripped away, the same way a mother feels with a baby in her womb. And I know it may sound crazy, weird, but you know how some people say they don't know themselves? Well, as we play as Joel, we learn more and more about him, and at the end of the game, it makes us feel that Joel is a part of us, apart from ourselves we work so hard to figure out. Now, in the second game, when Joel dies, it's almost as if a part of us has died. So, what I think I'm really trying to say is Joel is a part of us and a part of our minds and hearts, and those parts of us has died. And no game ever has made me feel this way about a character's death. And you have to remember, this game is real life. This isn't a superhero game or movie where someone dies in this universe. There's no coming back. And this game is just like real life. When people we love die, they aren't coming back. And this is a tough pill to swallow. When playing this game, having to grasp the fact that Joel's dead, and it makes you sad with Ellie. It's almost as like Joel and Ellie are real people living in our world, or we're fake people living in their world. So now, back to the story. After some time passes through the day, and Ellie being awoken by Dina with a sad face tells Ellie, "I'm sorry." Then, as Ellie opens up more, looking at Joel's lifeless body, Ellie starts repeating the words "no" to herself, and she stares at Joel's lifeless body. After some time passes, we see Ellie in her room, sad about what happened to Joel. Then, she gets a visit from Tommy with food brought from Maria. Tommy tells Ellie that Maria said that Ellie needs to eat. Then Ellie tells Tommy they need to get revenge, and that if it was one of them, Joel would be halfway to Seattle by now. As Tommy disagrees and tells Ellie to give him one day to talk to Maria about it, and as Ellie argues with this idea, she agrees to wait. But little did Ellie know, Tommy already made up his mind, but didn't want Ellie to get killed going after them. Because Joel did tell Tommy to protect Ellie if anything happened to him, because Joel has made lots of enemies over the past 24 years. Next day, we cut through the morning of Ellie at Joel's grave, and then Dina and Ellie go inside Joel's house, and as Ellie is taking one last look inside Joel's house, puts more of a toll on me and on Ellie. This is the game letting you know that Joel is dead. This makes you sad, but also furious, ready to take revenge on Abby. So, as we are looking through Joel's stuff, seeing all the things in Joel's house, Dina tells Ellie to come here. We see Maria sitting down, telling us that Tommy went out to Seattle on his own, and instead of trying to stop us from going out ourselves, Maria tells us to go and make sure Tommy comes back alive. So as we travel through Seattle, finding notes and collectibles, we stumble upon some WLF members, and Ellie ends up getting knocked out and captured. And as Ellie is being interrogated by Jordan, Ellie gets saved by Dina, killing one of the WLF members, but gets the window she's standing on shot from underneath, causing her to fall. And as Dina is being strangled by Jordan, Ellie uses a shard of broken glass to cut herself free, and by stabbing Jordan in the neck with a switchblade, she saves Dina in the process. Then, approaching the TV station, looking for Leia, Ellie and Dina sees that Leia is dead with arrows shot through her body, and upon seeing this, Dina says, "I guess the universe really wanted her dead." Now, nearing the end of day one, after making it to the theater and being chased by a horde of infected, and Dina finding out Ellie is immune, it turns out Dina is pregnant, and this has Ellie's head spinning. So, as Ellie is thinking to herself, she stumbles upon an old guitar in the theater room and starts playing the song Future Days, the same song Joel sang to Ellie when he gave her his guitar. she can barely play the guitar, thinking about Joel, this makes her very sad. Rests her head on a guitar, frowning. Then she starts to remember the good times with Joel, remembers her birthday, and this is very touching because we see how Joel planned his whole museum visit out for Ellie, and if you look through the game, when Ellie is exploring Joel's house, we can see space books near his bed, which shows that Joel decided to take an interest in what Ellie likes to try and grow closer to her. So, through this scene, the most touching thing that really got me was when Joel and Ellie were in a space shuttle, and Joel gave Ellie a cassette tape of the moon landing. After the recording is over and Ellie imagining herself in space, Joel asks Ellie if he did okay.
I do okay.
Are you kidding me?
You're welcome, kiddo.
And as they get out of the shuttle, Joel hands Ellie a rocket ship pin saying, "Congratulations," and she immediately puts it on her backpack. With Ellie excited, she wants to go on a non-accessible part of the museum. She jumps to the water, begging Joel to jump in, and as he does, they near the other building, with the door being locked. Ellie finds her own way in, and it's very dark and Ellie hears noises. But it turns out to be a hog that knocks her over, and Joel comes in, running. He asks if she's okay, and Ellie just says, yeah, it was just a stupid animal. But I find it funny that Ellie calls it an animal instead of a hog, because they really don't have school in the apocalypse. But as Joel and Ellie both turn their heads towards a wall, they see in spray paint saying that the fireflies are liars. With Joel seeing this, he changed the subject, saying for him and Ellie to start a fire before it gets dark, and then the scene ends. This just shows that Ellie is starting to wonder more and more about the truth, about what really went down in the hospital. Ellie wakes up after her flashback. Then she finds Dina has been up all night decoding radio codes from the WLF. She hands Ellie a map, telling her the person they're looking for is Nora, and she's at an abandoned hospital. So as Ellie makes her way there, she stumbles upon WLF soldiers. So as she ends up running away from them, she gets saved by Jesse. As Ellie and Jesse make their way through the WLF, they enter a car and drive away, but drive into a lake. As they swim up, they escape the WLF and head back to the theater with Dina. Jesse decides to stay because Dina is sick, but doesn't know she is pregnant because Ellie didn't tell him. Now we cut to black and get a flashback of a 17-year-old Ellie and Tommy on patrol. And Tommy teaches Ellie how to shoot his rifle and use a scope. And after the moment is over and all the infected are dead, they head back to Joel. But on the way there, Tommy tells Ellie Joel's worried about her and that he thinks something's wrong. But Ellie informs Tommy that nothing's wrong. But Tommy says, well, you're going to have to say more than hi and bye to him. With Ellie and Tommy getting back to Joel, Joel tells Ellie that her guitar needs new strings. With Ellie being clueless about this, Tommy says there's an old guitar store down the road. They should have strings. I just love how Tommy tries to get Ellie and Joel to spend more time together, trying to help his brother out. So, as Joel and Ellie leave out, Joel talks to Ellie about the comic books she likes and how he read them. It's so touching that Joel cares so much about Ellie. He read a book to connect more with her. So now approaching a guitar store, the way to it is blocked. So they cut through an abandoned hotel, and in this hotel, they find a teen couple that went missing, dead.
Ellie!
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, Joel.
Huh?
I think it's them. The couple that ran away last year.
I think you're right.
Jackson is a wonderful place, but we got tired of hearing the stories of people suffering everywhere else. We wanted to save lives. We had good intentions. We didn't make it an hour before running into a horde. Now we're bitten. We've decided we're gonna end our lives instead of turning. Please tell our family and friends that we're sorry. With Adam and Sydney. I shot her. I can't take my own life. I'm a coward. Adam.
Jesus.
Only they were immune, right?
Well, let's go get Tommy and we can get these bodies back to Jackson. Yeah.
After you took me out of the Firefly Hospital, you said there were dozens of people like me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they told me.
I've never met another immune person before. Have you?
I could be hiding it. You do.
Do you believe that?
Is now really the time for this?
We traveled across the entire country to bring me to the Fireflies. I had so many questions for them. Why did you pull me out of there while I was still unconscious?
Because I let them run their tests. And when I saw that they were useless, I got us out of there.
How do you know they were useless? Maybe if you just would have given them more time, they could have figured something out.
There was no cure. There's nothing that could help these people or anybody else. I know you wish things were different. I wish things were different. But they ain't. And we need to get these kids back to their families.
So, as Joel tells Ellie this, he tells Ellie, let's get these kids back to their families. Now, Dina tells Ellie that Jesse is knocked out, so Ellie decides to head back out on her own. Now, nearing the end of day 2, we run into Abby's friend, Nora, asking for the whereabouts of Abby.
Put that shit down. You remember me? Yeah. You remember me.
What do you want?
Abby was here earlier. Where'd she go?
I don't know. You shoot me. The sound will have every soldier come running.
You'll still be dead. Tell me where she went and I'll think about letting you go.
We could have killed you.
Maybe you should have. Or maybe you should have stayed out of Jackson. Where's Abby?
You still hear his screams?
What?
I hear them every night. Yeah. Yeah, got what he deserved.
And after a chase, we have Nora backed into a corner, nowhere to go as she slowly starts dying, breathing in spores. She tells us that Joel doomed humanity and says more things about him, and as we can see, Ellie's face and fuel of rage, but also sadness.
You Firefly?
There are no fireflies anymore.
Where's Abby?
I'm dead anyway. Why would I tell you anything?
Because I can make it quick. Or I can make it
Think about what he did. How many people are dead because of him?
Last chance.
I'm not giving up, my friend.
We see her torture Nora the same way Abby did Joel. Now, as we cut back to the theater, we see Ellie's hand is shaking, and as she does a knock, letting Jesse and Dina know that it's her, we see Ellie with the map. We see her shaking, telling Jesse and Dina where Abby is. What we see is a distraught Ellie, and Ellie that seems broken, and Ellie that was so caught up in revenge. She changed from the sweet girl many of us grew up with into what she sees herself as. She sees herself as a monster.
Arms up.
As she cries and Dina takes off her shirt, we see the scars and blood on her back. What we see is a hurt human being sad about the actions of another man, sad about what she has become. Now, this scene really hurt me. Seeing Ellie look so sad, seeing her shaking, it made me relate to her sadness and pain. Even though I've never experienced the sadness she just experienced, and to me, this game is so perfect as to something being able to capture the emotion of someone playing. It's almost like you're in Ellie's shoes.
I made her talk. It's okay. I don't want to lose you. Good.
So, after the scene, we get a flashback of Ellie when she was 17, going to the Firefly Hospital and finding the truth for herself. As she sits outside, replaying the same voice recording over and over, Joel arrives to the scene yelling, "Ellie!" And when he gets to her, he hugs her, telling her, "Don't run off like that," because she scared him. And you have to leave more than a note. But with Ellie's bland face frowning, she demands the truth from Joel, or her and Joel are through.
Tell me what happened here. If you lie to me one more time, I'm gone. You will never see me again. But if you tell me the truth, I'll go back to Jackson. No matter what it is. Just say it.
Joel.
Making a vaccine would have killed you. So I stopped them.
Oh my God. Don't you touch me! I'll go back. But we're done.
So, through the events of day 2 and 3, we start seeing a change with Ellie. One thing I would like to point out is how Ellie, instead of following Jesse to save and regroup with Tommy, she goes on her own to find Abby. We can clearly see that revenge has clearly taken over Ellie's thinking, and how it all starts going down from here. So now, after running into enemy after enemy, killing many WLF members, we finally arrive to where Abby is staying. We finally arrive at the aquarium. We are met with a dog that attacks Ellie, and Ellie kills the dog. Then, we see Abby's friends, Mel and Owen, arguing about saving Abby. Next, Ellie confronts them, asking for the whereabouts of Abby. Then, she uses a method that she has seen from Joel and Tommy, but she ends up failing. As we see, Owen waits for her to lose focus and attacks Ellie. In his attempt to stop Ellie, he ends up dying. Next, Mel attacks Ellie after seeing Owen die, and in her attempt, she dies too. But then, Ellie realizes what she's done. She didn't just kill 2 people, but instead, she killed 3. She saw Mel was pregnant. With Ellie coming back to this realization of what she's done, she starts losing control, and as she's spinning out, she's scared by Tommy, who she points a gun at, thinking it's someone else. In the process of Ellie's mental breakdown, Tommy tells her it's okay. So, Ellie, Tommy, and Jesse head back to the theater, and at the theater, we are greeted with loud screams, and as Ellie and Jesse rush to see what it is, we see Abby shooting at both Ellie and Jesse, and although Ellie didn't get hit, Jesse got hit in the face, with Jesse dying in the process. Now as Abby confronts us about killing her friends, the screen cuts to black, and it's crazy to know that Joel killed Ellie's father, but Ellie doesn't know, and Ellie just thinks Abby killed Joel because of her being the cure for mankind, and Joel taking that away from the world. But also, Abby doesn't know that by killing Joel, she took a father away from someone else. So she's just no better than Joel. We cut to Abby's POV for 3 days of Seattle, and this made lots of people furious. We're playing as the bad guy, the person we hate, the person who took our beloved character away from us. We have to play as her? No game in the history of games has ever done something like this. Many people did not like this. This caused people to not even finish the game. It caused people to hate on it, and going to lengths as to dedicating their whole lives to hating on the game, bandwagoning off of popular opinions they found on the internet, rather than coming to the conclusion for themselves. This really showed the maturity of many content creators too. An example is Moist Critical. I recently watched him give a review of the game, and all it was just him hating on the game with popular opinions he's seen on the internet. And the thing is, it doesn't even look like he's a fan of the Last of Us franchise. It just looks like he wanted a reason to spread negativity. And I admit, I was one of the people that hated on the game too. And note, I never played the first one and only watched clips of part 2. And now that I'm older, I realize how immature and non-understanding I was about topics. And the more I got older, I realized many thought like me. Many people that haven't even touched the game but were still so eager to hate just because of what they have seen on the internet. rather than coming to a conclusion for themselves. And now that I am older, I've learned to err of my ways and learned to come up with my own opinions. And instead of watching people like Moist Critical, who you can tell doesn't know the difference between a tomato versus a tomato, I learned to appreciate YouTubers such as Hollow. Ever since he switched genres and content back in 2019, he's played games and enjoyed them and came to his own conclusion of the game. Rather than bandwagoning off of people on the internet's popular opinions, it's almost like left and right. Every time a new game comes out, people immediately say it's bad. And sometimes it's true, the game is bad, but the people that just up and call everything bad haven't even played the game. They're calling bad. And for the people that do buy the games, they just boot it up and start hating on it from the get-go. Just because someone said it was bad instead of going into the game with an open mind. And for the people that go into a game hating, what was the point of buying the game if you're just going to be negative the whole time? Sure, Neil Druckmann could have made the game everyone wanted, just another Joel and Ellie adventure with sequel after sequel after sequel, but then they'll just be like any other game franchise. But instead of doing something to stand out like killing off Joel, they decided to make a game that captures realism and shows that life's not fair, and to show how uncertain life could be, even in the apocalypse. And I'm happy Neil Druckmann made this game and used his creative vision to make something that captures your emotions and makes the character on screen feel so real. Now back to Abby. So as we play as her, we learn that Joel killed her father, who was the surgeon who was going to operate on Ellie, and we can understand why Abby took revenge. We see how her father figure was taken away. We see the grief she felt and how she dedicated her life looking for Joel, and when she gets what she wants, she learns to change nothing for her. Now we know this death hit Abby pretty hard, which is why she took revenge on Joel, and it brought her nothing but more pain. I want you to ask yourself, do you know what all Abby and her dad has been through during this whole apocalypse? And no, you don't know. We know what all Joel and Ellie went through. This is why Joel's death hit us harder, but we can probably guess Abby went through a lot with her dad. It could possibly has faced more or less challenges than Joel and Ellie, but the challenges they overcame were more than enough for Abby to dedicate her life to an act of revenge to avenge her father. But we see how this made Abby bitter. We see how revenge changed nothing for her and how it pushed all her friends away, and some even died in the process. We see her taking a new path from vengeance to becoming compassionate. What many see is Abby becoming much like Joel. And one thing we see is how she starts to care for Lev the same way Joel cared for Ellie. In a way, the game never switched protagonists. Even though Joel's dead, we start to get a vibe of The Last of Us Part 1, but without Joel. But with Abby, in a sense, even though Joel's dead, he stops being just a person but ends up being an identity we see in Abby. We see her risk her life for him. We see her betray her organization to save Lev. She learned that just because they're the enemy doesn't mean you should hate them. She learned that the enemy is more than the enemy and what you believe was taught to you. She learned to look past it, and instead of seeing another enemy, she sees a human being. And I would like to think that Abby takes after her father. Being fueled by revenge changed her. But we see how she changes again into being kind and caring, just like we see in the flashback with Abby's dad, and him helping out the zebra. Although it's just a zebra, he still helped it just because it was the right thing to do. And as we see from flashbacks in present day, we learn that Owen knew this all along. We can see that he never really wanted to take revenge on Joel. We see that Owen wasn't that down to leave the WLF base and find Joel. We learned that he never wanted to take revenge for his parents' killers, the same way Abby took revenge on Joel. Owen knew that revenge would have gotten him nothing but more sadness. He knew revenge wouldn't bring his family back, and it took Abby a while to learn this lesson. We see Owen never really cared for the WLF. In a sense, he was more like Tommy. He wanted to be a hero and rejoin the Fireflies. We see he wanted to do good in this evil world. And an example of Owen not caring for WLF, we learned that he got into a scuffle with Danny and over not wanting to kill a Scar. As Abby talks to Owen, we learn that Owen saw a man pinned down. The old man had his weapon next to him but didn't reach for it. Owen saw the old man was tired of running. The old man was tired of it all, not willing to fight back. He just wanted to be at peace. And because of this, Owen couldn't do it. He couldn't kill his enemy. Owen took the time to talk it out rather than just seeing another human being as your enemy. And in this result, Danny got mad at Owen. And like I said about their scuffle, Danny pulled a gun on Owen, and in Owen's self-defense, he killed Danny. Now, let's cut back to Abby, finding her dead friends. We already know what happened at the aquarium of how Owen died. Even though in Owen's final moments, we sadly see Owen still caring for his friends. Rather than telling Ellie where Abby is, Owen ended up dying to Ellie after trying to fight back against her, but not being willing to give up his friend, Abby. Now, at the theater.
What do we do when we find?
Just figure out how to get in first.
Jesse. I think I don't know what real gold looks like. Wait till you see this. She's gonna love it.
Hands up. Back away from me. I said back up!
You're making a big mistake.
Turn around. Liv, keep your bow on him. Get on the ground.
You gonna kill me like a coward?
Jesse, stand up! Hands in the air, I shoot this one too.
Don't you do it, Ellie. Get out of here.
Stand up! Now!
Don't you dare!
All right?
Stop! Stop!
Toss your weapon. Toss your weapon!
No.
I know why you killed Joel. He did what he did to save me. There is no cure because of me. I am the one that you want. Just let him go.
You killed my friends. We let you both live. And you wasted it.
Wait! Get off of her! Stop me!
Come on. Stay here. Watch the exits. Don't let her leave.
We see Abby and Ellie fight, and now understanding both sides, you just want both Abby and Ellie to stop fighting, but the game doesn't let you. Even though the player understands both sides, Abby and Ellie don't understand each other.
Stop! She had nothing to do with it. She's pregnant.
Good.
Abby!
Dina, the final blow. Abby takes a look at Lev, and in Lev's eyes, you can tell he may be thinking about his sister Yara and how she died. And when you look at Abby's face staring at Lev, you can see the sadness in her eyes, seeming like she's about to cry. And as she puts the knife down, you can see her put both hands on her legs, sitting for a quick second to grief instead of act on instinct. And this made her realize killing wouldn't do any good. This wouldn't bring Owen and Mel back. This is almost like her final steps into learning that there's a better way. So Abby spares Dina and Ellie and tells them she doesn't want to see Ellie again. Now, since I already knew the ending to this game, I was confused and I thought the next part was a dream. But if I stayed away from spoilers, I probably wouldn't have thought this was a dream. But the thing is, I didn't plan on playing it until I decided to play the first one a couple weeks ago. But anywho, now we cut to a farmhouse and we open up to Ellie looking at Joel's watch, the one Joel's daughter, Sarah, gave Joel. And in a sense, this watch could have been passed down to Ellie if Joel died a death of old age. as a way for Ellie, someone who he took in as a daughter, could have to remember him. But the sad thing is, Joel did not die this death, which is very sad. And I guess, in a way, the game hinted that Joel would die this way because as we hear on patrol with Dina, Ellie wishes that they could die in old age the same way as Eugene. But as we know, in this world, that is something that is very hard to do. But now, since the watch passed on to Ellie, and we can maybe hope the next person to wear this watch could be JJ. The next thing we hear as Ellie is looking at Joel's watch is crying from a baby. And as Ellie puts down the watch, we see she walks to a crib and pick up a baby named JJ. And as we get a full view of Ellie, we see her hair is shorter and she's much skinnier, and JJ is at least a couple months old. So we can see that some time has passed. And I'm not sure how much time, but I believe someone on Reddit has stated that it has been 18 months. And it's cool that there are time skips in this game, just like we had time skips going from season to season in the first game. During this part, I felt like it was a dream because someone in this world having an actual dream fulfilled is so unreal. Just the fact that we see Ellie and Dina are living on a farm with JJ, we see them living happily after Abby spared both her and Dina's life. This was their dream, and yet it's their dream, but they're both still unhappy. As we continue walking around the house, we're met with Dina cooking and doing laundry. And as we make our way outside to feed the sheep, which is pretty cool that Dina and Ellie named the sheep after people they knew, but as Ellie offers to keep watch with JJ and feed the sheep in the barn, we see Ellie start hallucinating about Joel's death. And as we are playing inside this bad dream of Ellie's, she opens her eyes back up to see Dina trying to comfort Ellie. We now learn that after these traumatic events, Ellie suffers from PTSD. This shows that even after 18 months has passed, or however much time has passed, we see the effect of Joel's death still has on Ellie. The screen goes black. We're met with a still frame of a rabbit, and I like to think this is a tribute to the first game when Ellie shoots a rabbit with an arrow. The same scene that became a very popular meme. Now as we see this dead rabbit, we see a hand pick it up, and it's picked up by Ellie. And as we take the rabbit, we walk back to the farmhouse, and as we approach the door, we see Dina open the door telling us we have a visitor. And as we walk inside, we're met by Tommy holding JJ. Now what surprised me was that Tommy was alive. This made me believe that this was a dream of Ellie's that she had while she was unconscious by Abby after the fight in the theater. But this isn't the case, because as we see, Abby shot Tommy in the head, but as we look closer, we see Tommy only has one eye and is walking with a limp. So the game was making us believe that Tommy was dead, but instead he was only shot in the eye and shot in the leg by an arrow from Lev. Now we see Tommy get up and start walking to the kitchen table to show something to Ellie. And as we hear as he's walking to the table that him and Maria are taking some time apart, which makes sense because Tommy did leave alone that night to avenge Joel. So as Tommy reaches into his bag, we see him explain how he found where Abby and Lev were because someone he traded with, I believe, told him about their whereabouts. Now as Tommy is going more into death, we hear Dina say that Ellie and Dina are both done with revenge. Tommy states that he can't go because of the condition he's in and because of Maria. Dina tells Tommy they can't go either because last time they didn't almost make it back alive if Abby didn't see the bigger picture in things and have a change of heart. And as Tommy hears this,
Reckon it's easy. Forget about her. You sitting all comfy way out here?
Hey,
I'll make her pay.
Tommy.
That's what you said when we got back to Jackson.
Tommy.
What a joke.
Can you take him, please?
Yeah. Here. I got you. I got you.
Hey. Was that?
Nothing.
Tommy, you know what we've been through.
I'll save it. She made me a promise.
I don't care.
Ellie's face the whole time was distraught. We can tell she's having flashbacks and regret and confusion about what went down in Seattle. And as we see Ellie zoning out, we hear Tommy and Dina arguing outside. And it makes sense that he and Maria are taking some time apart because as we just saw at Ellie and Dina's house, Tommy is still stuck on revenge for avenging Joel. We see how broken he is, and as we hear, we can tell that Joel's death changed Tommy. Tommy was very calm and nice and very laid back and caring, but as we saw when he went to Seattle alone, we saw just how dangerous Tommy could be with that sniper. We see how revenge has overtaken his life, and if any of you have an older sibling, you know that they try their hardest to look out for you, even if they are mean. We hear about Joel's dialogue in the first game about how even though he's far from Tommy, he still made his way back to Jackson to see him and make sure he's doing okay. We see Joel risking his freedom with Fedra just to see his brother and make sure he's doing okay. And Tommy knew this about Joel, even in the show. I like how they went more in depth about Tommy, knowing Joel always tried to protect him. Now, as the screen pans into Ellie's face, now we see Ellie awake in the middle of the night with the sleeping Dina and JJ beside her. You see that Ellie still is thinking about what Tommy said. She walks over to her art room, opens up a box, and there we can see her reading her journal. And as she puts down her journal, she walks downstairs and starts playing a guitar given to her by Joel. And as she starts playing, we start to notice her inability to play, still thinking about Joel. Now we get a flashback. We cut to a bar where we hear music. We hear Little Sadie by Crooked Stills playing. So as Ellie watches from afar, watching Dina dance, sipping alcohol, and talking to Jesse about Dina and his breakup. And also, I think it's funny how Ellie is drinking alcohol at 19, and when she was 14, her and Riley found it very nasty, which is something I understand, but it's funny how Ellie's opinion has changed, and it's cool that in the remastered version, we can see the cut content showing Ellie walking around looking for stuff to mix with her drink. Now, back to Ellie and Jesse talking about his and Dina's relationship. Then we hear Jesse tell Ellie her old man really laid into him today, and how involved he gets when Ellie is scheduled for patrols. And we see Ellie shrug, look down with a sad face and says, yeah, this tells us that even though Joel and Ellie aren't talking, Joel still keeps Ellie as her number one priority. Now, we see Dina get done dancing, and Dina approaches Jesse and Ellie, and as Dina tells Ellie what took her so long, and Jesse greets Dina, and Dina replies, Jesse? And Dina tells Ellie, come on, and Dina drags Ellie to the dance floor. We see Jesse tell Dina they have patrol in the morning, and Dina replies sarcastically saying, yes sir, followed by a salute. Now, we see Ellie and Dina dancing to the song Ecstasy by Crooked Stills, and Dina jokingly tells Ellie, how does she smell? And Ellie replies by saying, like a hot pot garbage. Then Dina replies to Ellie, you love it, and as Dina pulls in, hugging Ellie closer, we see Ellie is so nervous, looking around and tells Dina every guy in the room is staring at you. And Dina says, maybe they're staring at you. And as Ellie's eyes widen and shakes her head, she says, they're not. Then Dina tells Ellie, maybe they're jealous of you. And Ellie replies, I'm just a girl, not a threat. And Dina approaching Ellie closer, she says, I think they should be terrified of you. And as Ellie looks so nervous, with so many emotions running through her head, Dina kisses her, and as Dina finishes, Seth comes over and says, hey, this is a family event, and Dina apologizes twice as she walks away, pulling Ellie. And Seth says, remember there are kids around, and Dina says, yeah, like you're setting such a great example. And Seth says,
oh, just what this town needs. Another loudmouth.
Just say?
Ellie, Ellie, don't.
Get the hell out of here. Get your hands off me.
Hey!
Enough. Come on, you. Let's go for a walk.
What about them?
You worry about yourself.
Let's get you some fresh air.
You all right, kiddo?
What is wrong with you?
He had no right.
And you do? I don't need your help, Joel.
Right.
And this scene makes me sad because it's just Joel trying to look out for Ellie without showing too much emotion. This upsets many of us, seeing Ellie not getting along with Joel. So this gives us more insight on the falling out between Ellie and Joel, and we can tell that Joel thinks about Ellie every day and how even though Ellie shut Joel out of her life, he still cares for Ellie, and deep down, Ellie knows that. It's just the fact of what he did and how long he lied to her. And as Joel's walking out, we can see Ellie's facial expression change to pity, confusion, or guilt for what she said to someone who only had her best interest in heart. But this can relate to us when we're mean to our parents sometimes. We know they're trying to help, but it's just us not thinking straight, and we come off as mean even if we really didn't mean it. And it sucks for Ellie because this would be the last time she sees Joel. So it's an important lesson to not be mad and forgive others, and always tell someone you love them before it's too late. Now, as we finish the flashback, we see Ellie in the kitchen packing things into a bag.
Hey.
Hey.
Man, it's been a while since he slept this long, huh?
He had a day.
Yeah. He's fine. Go back to bed. We'll talk about it in the morning, okay?
I have to finish it.
You don't owe Tommy anything.
I don't sleep. I don't eat. I'm not like you, Dina.
What? You think this is easy? For you and for him, I deal with it.
I love you.
Prove it. Stay.
I can't.
So what? I'm just supposed to sit here and wait for you? For God knows how long? Just thinking dead the entire time?
I don't plan on dying.
Yeah, well, neither did Jesse. Or Joel. Hey, stop. Hey, come on. We've got a family. She doesn't get to be more important than that. No. I'm not gonna do this again.
That's up to you.
We see Dina tell Ellie to choose between revenge or her, and as Ellie says, "I love you," Dina asks her to prove it, but having revenge so caught up on her mind and the guilt of the last thing she said to Joel being mean moves her to choose revenge over Dina. This shows just even after barely escaping with their life twice and being spared, it shows how far drifted away from the right state of mind. We have seen it happen with Abby and how her vengeance conquered nothing. And now we're seeing it happen with Ellie. And we have already seen it with Tommy and how it pushed him away from Maria, but also how it pushed him away from Ellie, someone that he really cares for. We see how even in an apocalyptic world, a man who's always been soft-spoken, way back, even in the midst of all the bad things around him, and even how he achieved his purpose as being seen as a hero, like when he helped out in Jackson, we see how losing his brother can have vengeance change a man, just like that. We cut to Abby and Lev, looking for the Fireflies. We hear Abby traded a pistol, I believe, for some info on where the Fireflies are located. And a little small detail I noticed is that when we cut to Abby's section, we see a zoomed in shot of someone walking, and the shoes we see are Converse. This starts making us think this is Ellie, but as the camera pans out, we see it's Lev instead of Ellie. And this symbolizes that Lev basically became Ellie, and also as we see the clothes Abby is wearing, she's wearing the same colors as Joel in the first game. And I would like to think that in The Last of Us Part 3, we see Lev turn into an older version of Ellie, and we see Abby turn into a better person than Joel. Because just like Joel saw the key to humanity in Ellie, Abby sees the key to humanity in Lev. And not in the sense of Ellie being a cure for infected, but in a sense as her innocence being a cure for humanity to learn to love again. As we see after Joel's death, Ellie turned into something Joel didn't see her as, but as Lev grows up, we can hope that he doesn't take the same revenge path as Ellie. So now, as Abby and Lev search for the address, they stumble upon the one they're looking for, and not being able to find anyone inside the house or anything, Abby goes outside to a shed and still finds nothing but some supplies. Then we hear Lev tell Abby to come here as he finds a secret basement. And as we find the basement and go on the radio, we hear no response. As Abby thinks all hope is lost, we get a response telling us that the Fireflies are regrouping in Santa Barbara, and they are at least going 200 strong. And as Abby and Lev celebrate, Abby learns that Owen was right and that the rumors were true. So as Abby and Lev have a little Joel and Ellie moment, which warms my heart and made many of us reminisce on the first game. So now, as Abby and Ev leave the house onto their next destination, they are attacked by a group of strangers, and as Abby is pinned down, Lev shoots a bow at one of them. The fat guy knocks out Lev, and as Abby is on the ground screaming for them to let go of Lev, as she's screaming, please to not hurt him, we can see a little bit of Ellie watching Joel being tortured in this scene, or in a sense, of seeing Joel if Ellie was being hurt. And this is more proof as to Abby being a changed person. Now, as we see Abby in agony, with a piece of cloth tied over her mouth, watching Lev become unconscious and tied up, we see the screen cut to black. Now, we return to Ellie, nearing the end of the game, as we see Ellie finds a boat Tommy told Ellie about, but Abby and Lev are not in it. But inside, she finds a map, showing where they are. So, as Ellie travels through Santa Barbara, she runs through a bit of infected, but other than that, she's walking until she stumbles upon a trap. The same kind of trap that Joel got stuck in the first game by Bill, but this trap, although it has her upside down swinging, the momentum moves her to end up getting stabbed by a sharp part of the tree in her hip, and as Ellie starts bleeding, she tries to get down with her knife but ends up dropping her knife, and as Ellie is hanging bleeding out, the blood loss causes her to go unconscious. Then she wakes up with blurred vision, causing her to see people, which causes Ellie and the player to believe this is Abby and Lev. And as Ellie is muttering Abby and opens up her eyes more while hanging upside down, we see that it's the same guys who kidnapped Abby and Lev. Now, as they cut Ellie down, you can see the one guy says to the other, can it be done for today? And as the player, this has you questioning what they are doing, because if we can recall, we know that when they kidnap Abby, they say, we got a good catch. And I know this sounds bad as to something weird a weirdo would say, but instead of what you're actually thinking, they kidnap people and use them as slaves. So with Ellie lying on the ground, we see the guy resetting the trap, and as he is not paying attention, we see a clicker hanging from a different trap, and as the guy gets scared and the other guy asking if it got him, Ellie laughs and taunts him, and the guy, pretty self-conscious about his ego, causes him to get mad and grab Ellie, and Faye pulls her towards the clicker to bite her, but Ellie, using her wits, pulls the guy forward and has him get bitten. And as the fat guy starts shooting the clicker, Ellie uses the guy's body as a shield and grabs her rifle and shoots the fat guy in the legs, and leaving the short guy dead. With Ellie confronting the fat guy and the guy pleads for his life, he tells Ellie where Abby is, and in typical gangster Ellie fashion, she finishes the guy off. And me, playing this section, I wanted to spare the guy because I only thought they were trapping infected or doing something different with Abby, but as I got further into this part, I'm happy she didn't. Now, as we see Ellie walking towards the building, the guy described to her repeating the direction of the building to herself while she's covering her stab wound, and we can notice that Ellie gave herself stitches. She overhears a loud scream yelling the words, "Get him!" And as Ellie ducks, she sees the guy screaming, "He is not going back." And as we see people aiming guns at him saying, "Keep him alive," the guy decides to end his own life. Now, as we see Ellie shaken by this, she takes cover and takes out these people as she makes her way through the building. She stumbles upon a guard fighting Ellie, and as Ellie struggles, she manages to kick the lady off towards a cage with people locked inside. And as the people grab the woman through the cage and break out, we see them go to a locker and grab weapons to fight back against her kidnappers. Ellie asks them, "Where's Abby?" And as one of the ladies yells, "She's bit," Ellie pulls out her gun, threatening them not to point their gun at her. And in the midst of the scuffle, the guy in front tells Ellie that Abby is in the pillars and that her and Lev tried to escape and may not be alive. And as Ellie hears this, she heads over to the pillars to find stakes with dead people tied around them. And as she looks around, she finds Abby.
It's you. Abby. I got you. I got you. They're both this way.
So, as both Abby and Ellie start limping to the boats, we see Abby put Lev on one boat and Ellie put her stuff on a separate boat. We can see Ellie feels pity for Abby. So, we can see Ellie not wanting to go through with killing Abby as she puts her stuff down in the boat.
I can't let you leave. I'm not doing this. No. I'm not gonna fight you. Yes, you will. He's not a part of this. You made him a part of this. Okay. Okay.
This causes me to think, like, come on, Ellie. Abby has been through enough. You killed all her friends. She has nothing left. No organization, no friends, no family. And you left Abby with the worst feeling of all. Survivor's guilt. This is the same feeling Ellie had first with losing her best friend Riley, and they both got bitten, and Ellie lived because she was immune. Then with Tess after she sacrificed herself to save Ellie, and even Joel dying too. Ellie left Abby with the worst pain, and then we end up seeing Abby care for Lev. So she became Joel in a sense, and Lev became Ellie. So by Ellie coming to kill Abby, in a sense, she's killing Joel. And at the end, Ellie ended up becoming the person she came to kill. She became Abby. It's just the cycle of hatred and revenge going over and over again and finding a way to circle back around into other people's lives. And Abby learned how to break the cycle by becoming someone better. This shows Ellie that Abby has been through a lot with the Rattlers. Also, Ellie seeing Abby care for Lev really changed her mind on Abby and leaves Ellie with little information on what Abby has been through. Not as much as the player knows what both have been through, but just enough to know for Ellie to understand. Because, like I said before, the player knows what both have been through, but both Ellie and Abby don't know what each other has been through, which really makes this fight hard to watch. It just makes you wish they would stop fighting. But they don't understand each other, so they won't stop. And I love how this game puts you in the shoes of Ellie, and how at the beginning of the game makes you against Abby until you play as her, and it causes you to understand Abby is just like real life. When in war, both sides are fighting, both sides are wrong, and both sides aren't right. You just know if you're in war, you know what you're fighting for, but you don't know what the opposite person is fighting for. If only you could know what your enemy is thinking, people could understand each other more, but yet that's not the case, and only the viewer can understand both sides. In a sense, the player starts from being in Ellie's mind at the beginning, and then at the end, you're in both Ellie and Abby's minds. And I know that we have known Ellie longer from the first game, which makes it easier to pick sides with whoever you have known longer. Just like in real life, you care about people you know longer rather than a stranger, which is the same way we see Abby until we play as her, and she becomes a part of us, just like Ellie and Joel, because we already spent so much time with Abby too. So like say with Joel and Ellie being a part of us, we have Abby become a part of us. And just like Joel dying and losing a part of ourselves, the empty feeling of Joel leaving can be replaced by Abby. We see Abby get up and tackle Ellie. Now, as the camera cuts to black, we return to see Ellie back at the farmhouse with the camera focusing on her fingers. As she enters it, we see it's all empty until we make our way upstairs. We see Ellie's room where her art is still there and untouched. And as we start looking around the records and paintings, we pick up Joel's guitar. So Ellie starts playing the guitar. She lost her inability to play the guitar, which is the only resemblance she has left of Joel.
What are you drinking?
Coffee.
Where'd you get that?
Those people that came through last week.
Oh.
A little embarrassed as to what I had to trade to get it, but it's not bad.
I had Seth under control.
Yeah, I know.
And you need to stop harassing Jesse about my patrols.
Okay. Dina. Is she your girlfriend?
No. No, that was just one kiss. It doesn't mean anything. She just, I don't know why she did that.
But you do like her. have no idea what that girl's intentions are, but I do know that she would be lucky to have you.
You're such an...
I'm not trying to.
I was supposed to die in that hospital. My life would have fucking mattered. But you took that from me.
If somehow the Lord gave me a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.
Yeah. I don't think I can ever forgive you for that. But I would like to try.
I'd like that.
Okay. I'll see you around.
Yep.
So much emotion for me. Just seeing Joel try not to cry is so sad to see. When playing this, I had the same thoughts as Joel running through my head, and Neil Druckmann made such a great story in a way of having us connect with Joel. It's almost like as if we are Joel. We see Ellie muster up her emotions and tell Joel that she'll see him around, and as Joel says, yup, trying to hold himself together as Ellie walks off the porch, leaving. Joel not knowing that this is the last time she'll ever have a conversation with him. Instead of following Ellie, the camera pans into Joel's guitar. Start to hear Gustavo Santaolall's amazing guitar playing skills. Play the Last of Us Part 2 song, Beyond Desolation, one last time. The camera gets closer and closer to the guitar, showing the moss symbol on the guitar, symbolizing the plot of the story, and as many changes is made in Ellie's journey. The moss symbolizes downfall. For example, the idiom, like a moth to a flame. We can see in the story of how Ellie was so focused on revenge, she lost sight of what was most important. We can see this just from the way Ellie chose to go after Abby rather than going with Jesse to save Tommy. And this choice caused Ellie to traumatize herself by killing a pregnant woman, and one of the last people in the world in The Last of Us that still has morals of basic humanity traits. This action led to the death of her friend Jesse by Abby coming back for revenge, and if Lev didn't stop Abby, Ellie, Dina, and Tommy would have joined Jesse too. And we see how this choice resulted in Ellie losing a lot of what makes her Ellie, including the inability to still play the guitar. The second thing the moth represents is hidden truths. The way Joel hid the truth of telling Ellie what really went down in the Firefly Hospital, he has a symbol on his guitar and gives it to a 15-year-old Ellie, symbolizing the truth is still hidden, and by Ellie leaving the guitar behind, it symbolizes even though she knew the truth 2 years prior, letting go of the guitar states to everyone the truth is no longer hidden. Another hidden truth is that Ellie is immune, so she tattoos a moth on her bite mark to hide the truth that she's immune. The moth also symbolizes Ellie's connection to Joel, showing that they both have hidden truths and how they both lost their way. Ellie leaving behind Joel's guitar means that Ellie has made peace with Joel's passing and letting go of him, but still remembering him with the tattoo on her arm. Think of this as like the guitar is Joel and the tattoo is Ellie. Ellie usually has both, so Joel is always with her because Joel and Ellie are a pair. But since Joel is dead, she leaves behind his guitar, meaning Joel is no longer with her, so she is by herself. The tattoo on her arm represents Ellie leaving Joel, but the memories of Joel will forever be with Ellie. And it's sad to see that this is the first image we see when the game opens with the moth on a guitar, and the last image we see when the game ends is the moth on the guitar. The foreshadowing couldn't have been more perfect. And I love how this is the first and last image symbolizing what the moth means for Joel and Ellie. Shout out to the YouTuber Wolf of Thorns for explaining the moth symbolism. And Neil Druckmann, the creator of the Last of Us franchise, has said that Ellie leaving the guitar behind can symbolize Ellie being in Joel's shoes, just like Joel did before he met Ellie. With him quoting, "Once you committed all these atrocities yourself, can you come back from that?" We see Joel come back and learn to love again. Now, the question is, can Ellie come back? So after the camera loses focus on the guitar, we see out the window as Ellie walks away from the farmhouse on her way back to Jackson. Then the screen goes black and the credits roll. And as the credits rolled, I felt a sense of emptiness instead of fulfillment like most games do. This game made me empty, depressed, but understanding. It's time for Ellie to move on from Joel, but it's also time for us to move on from Joel too. I realized my connection to Joel. Just like Jesse said to Ellie, he looked up to Joel, and I guess I looked up to him too. So it makes sense why many people hated this game. On top of Joel dying, Joel, an imaginary character, was a father figure to a lot of people. To face the truth, many people don't have loving parents, fathers, mothers, father figures, or even role models. Sometimes, video games are all some people have. And out of all the games out there, Joel stands out to these people, and many people try to be like him. So when he died, it's like someone special left them, because this character is special to them. This death hits some people harder than when an actual loved one dies. It's sad, but it's the truth we face in this reality. Maybe this is what Neil Druckmann was trying to capture, but he couldn't put it into words, so he made a game out of it. So the lesson I guess I can take from it or share with you guys is try and be a role model, because even if people do have someone they look up to, like a father or family friend, truth is they might not be the best person, and either that person is gaslighting themselves and believing the person is good, or knowing they're not a good person but hoping they could change like Joel did. And if you do look up to someone, make sure they're doing good, but not by the world standards, but by your standards, because many problems we face in the world with all the hate and violence is taught by people we look up to, but we don't know any better. So what is actually wrong is what we think is right. Some people even think what's wrong is right their whole lives, but for some, thinking this way, it may be a chance in their lifetimes when their eyes are open to the real right way to live, breaking free from the shackles of taught hatred and setting your own example for others to follow in your footsteps. This game just makes you question everything. An example is like, what even does the title mean? The Last of Us. Who even is the Last of Us? Is it the last of humankind? Is it the last of a generation? Is it the last of good people that reside on Earth? We don't know. This game just made me look at life so differently, and it made me realize that even if there was a cure for cordyceps, humanity would still bicker and fight with each other. It shows that human evolution would have to start over to recreate society, and it's hard to believe that all this fighting and infected is just normal for Ellie and Abby. It's just what they were born into. Stuff like this scares the player if it were to happen in real life, but for people like Ellie, Abby, Dina, Jesse, and all the kids we see in Jackson, people born into the Seraphites or WLF, we see that this is the norm for people born into the pandemic. It's just nonstop pure violence and hatred. It's crazy because this is what it was like for humans way before us, before all the colonization. In order to colonize, it was a lot of war and violence that it took to get it. And it's sad to believe that in The Last of Us, humanity has to start over with laws and governments. It's just so much this game makes you feel after beating it. It makes me feel so many emotions at once I can't even put into words. This ending even makes us wonder where Ellie is going. Is she going back to Jackson to be with Dina? Or one YouTuber who go by as Artur stated that Ellie may be going out to be the symbol of hope that Joel saw the world may need. She may go out and try to do right by Joel, and although she left Joel behind, he still will live on in his memory as Ellie becomes the key to mankind. But that may not be the truth. One Reddit user who go by his name 69420 says, "Crazy thing is, I truly believe Ellie did have a happy ending. We missed the clues." Another YouTuber commented on the letter you find at the farm when you are with Dina and the baby. It's from the baby's father's mom saying they will always have a place in Jackson if they choose to come back home. Also, if you notice, when Ellie leaves to fight Abby at the end, she's not wearing the bracelet Dina gave her. But when she returns, the camera zooms in on her hand. We were focused on the fingers missing, but look completely past the fact that now she's wearing the bracelet, possibly meaning she has already been at Jackson and is living with Dina. She just went back to the farm for the guitar, but decided to leave it. That represents her finally being able to accept Joel's death and end the cycle of revenge. Here are some things to back this claim. When she comes back to the farm, she's not hurt or not wearing any of her weapons. She doesn't seem surprised that everyone is gone when she enters the house. She doesn't call out Dina's name or anything. Some other notes about the story is that we see Ellie as the main character and that a lot of people side with Ellie, but the YouTuber Christina, who is also the face model for Dina on her playthrough of the game, said something that stuck with me. She explained, just because the story is centered around a certain character doesn't make them the most important one. Just like Joel dying, we know that he did a lot of bad stuff like killing Abby's dad to save Ellie. If the cordyceps were real, we all would say kill Ellie to make a vaccine. To keep in mind, when the Fireflies prepped Ellie for surgery, they didn't tell Ellie she was going to die. And they also knocked out Joel and told him last second before surgery started. And I'm pretty sure if any of us were Joel and that person in surgery was someone we love, we would do what he did. Because Joel didn't even get to say a final goodbye to Ellie, nor did Ellie consent for her life to be taken, nor did she get a final goodbye to Joel. And it's crazy too, because one thing I need to point out is that Marlene asked Abby's dad if that was your daughter out there, could you go through with the surgery? And Abby's dad just didn't answer. So we understand why Joel did what he did. It's not an easy choice, but we do see Abby overheard the conversation and told her dad that she would die for this cause if she could be the vaccine. But with Ellie, we see that she doesn't get that choice. The surgery was going to be done against her will, and that's what we thought until the second game. We see Ellie telling Joel that she was supposed to die in a hospital. We learned that it was her will, but we don't learn what her choice was until now, because the Fireflies didn't give Ellie a chance to state what she wanted. She says Joel took that choice from her, but the Fireflies took that choice from her, and Joel was just doing what he thought would be best. To keep in mind too is that Ellie doesn't even know the full story, because Joel only told Ellie that he stopped the Fireflies and not all the knocking him unconscious stuff, and not telling Ellie that Marlene was not going to kill Ellie, that was going to die in surgery. In the first game, we see Ellie tell Joel that she's ready to be the key to the vaccine. She states after all she's been through, it can't be for nothing. But what we didn't hear was that Ellie was ready to die. So it makes us differ the question, was Joel right? Because as we see in the first game, with Ellie going to die, Joel wouldn't have been able to say a final goodbye. We even see Joel ask Marlene to find someone else, and since there was no one else, these words moved Joel to act on impulse. But in the second game, we see Ellie was mad at Joel for lying to her about what went down in a firefight hospital. But we see her take revenge and acting on impact because she doesn't have time to grieve. She doesn't get to tell Joel sorry. She doesn't get to tell Joel a final goodbye. We all know that Joel would have given his life for Ellie in a heartbeat, or even Sarah, the same way we would give our life for someone like our children. It's sad to think that Joel died thinking Ellie hasn't forgiven him. Human life is so important. This game made me realize that love can move us to do dangerous things and act irrationally or rationally. One more thing I would like to point out is how we were seeing Ellie suffocating Abby. We saw her get a glimpse of Joel, and this caused her to stop. Not because of Ellie is seeing Abby as another version of Joel that she was about to kill, but instead, Ellie knew that Joel was far from innocent, far from it. But I feel the reason as to why Joel saved Ellie was because Joel knew that Ellie's innocence could change the world, just like her innocence saved him. And deep down, as Ellie was suffocating Abby, she knew this was not the legacy Joel wanted Ellie to leave behind. Joel did not want Ellie to become another him. This whole giving your life stuff for humanity makes me think. It is just like real life. We try to protect the ones we love, and if someone were to die that we love, it's hard to say a final goodbye without acting on impact, whether it be crying or doing what Joel did, whether it be if we were in the predicament to save someone who he loves life. This game really makes me think of the show Attack on Titan. In Attack on Titan, we learned that there's no wrong side in war, but both sides aren't right. We learned that humans can never live in peace, and at the end of the show, after everything, all the people who fought for freedom won. We see that war still continues to go on. Also, in part 1, it's a war against the infected, just like how it was in Attack on Titan. And then we get to part 2, it's wars against humans with infected being in the mix, just like how the perspective changed to wars with humans, with Titans being used in war, and not being the main enemy. And also, just like Attack on Titan, the main character dies in the end. Even though he did a lot of bad stuff, like killing 80% of the population, Eren still had a change of heart, and even though he died, and we still felt sad watching it, because even though he did a lot of bad stuff, he kind of turned into a good guy, and we could relate Eren to Joel because Joel did a lot of bad stuff. He turned into a good guy, and that's why I think I felt sad when watching him die. But The Last of Us ending was different. When we see Attack on Titan and how it ended, it wasn't a happy ending, but it left us with a feeling, knowing and seeing how the characters' lives ended, along with the story. But in The Last of Us Part 2, we get an ending that leaves us with emptiness. We don't get a conclusion to the story, just like Part 1. We got a conclusion, but not a conclusion that leads us not to worry about the characters. But in Part 2, it leaves us with the ending of worrying what will Ellie do next. In the song, Through the Valley, Ellie sees Joel as the man to save the world, but Ellie knows Joel sees her as the one to save the world. And in the CGI trailer we got for the game, we see Joel telling Ellie, is she really going to go through with this? And Ellie tells Joel she's going to find and kill every last one of them. And as we know, Joel is dead, and this is Ellie's subconscious, and she's having doubts or imagining what Joel would think of her choices as to get revenge for him. And we all know this isn't what Joel would want. And it's very touching that Ellie is thinking about Joel while singing Through the Valley because it relates so much to the predicament Ellie is in. And I think Naughty Dog made the perfect soundtrack that fits this game super well. And in the flashback at the bar with Ellie and Dina, we hear Sadie. We hear Little Sadie by Crooked Stills playing, and I love the way this song captures the emotions Ellie and Dina have for each other. At the end of the game, as the camera pans to the guitar by the window Ellie left behind, and then showing Ellie walking away from the house, the song playing is titled Beyond Desolation, and the word desolation is defined as another word for emptiness, which is what Ellie is feeling at the end of the game, and throughout the story as her worst fear has come true, loneliness. And when you hear the song, the whole song is navigating through tension and release, giving you hope for resolution. This makes the song so terribly sad. This statement was pointed out to me by Matin Asa on YouTube. On the porch, when Ellie walks up to Joel after the Seth incident, we see Joel playing the guitar, and He's playing the song Helplessly Hoping by the band Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and the song meaning is about two lovers who don't know what to do in a psychological setting, and although we know Joel and Ellie aren't lovers, that's very disgusting to think about, but we do know that Ellie and Joel don't know what to do or how to talk to each other since the incident at the hospital and Ellie found out the truth. How The Last of Us Part 2 changed my life. This game didn't just tell a story, it changed my entire way of thinking. It helped me conquer my fear of death and showed me how to see life differently. Instead of taking the people I love for granted, I've learned to cherish them, to live without regrets, and to love deeply. The game taught me to live each day as if it were my last, and to find peace with the idea that death is a natural part of life. One of the most unexpected ways The Last of Us Part 2 impacted me was by inspiring me to pick up a guitar. It's something I'd been wanting to do for a long time, but this game gave me the push I needed to finally go for it. I ended up buying a Yamaha guitar in a tobacco sunburst finish, a nod to Joel's iconic guitar. While I couldn't afford the official Taylor model, this one feels just as special to me. Every time I pick it up, it makes me feel connected to Joel and Ellie, as if they're a part of me. The game's music, especially the moments where Joel and Ellie play guitar, stirs such a deep emotion in me. It's beautiful, but it also makes me incredibly sad. Their music represents connection, loss, and hope, and playing a guitar that resembles Joel's feels like carrying a piece of that with me. Every time I strum a chord, I'm reminded of Joel teaching Ellie, of their bond, and of the bittersweet beauty in their story. Learning to play has become not just a hobby, but a way of honoring everything the game means to me. If the world ever turned into the harsh reality of The Last of Us, I believe I'd be okay with living and surviving differently. The game gave me the strength to accept outcomes beyond my control. Death is like sleep. You don't wake up and nothing matters anymore. You don't see who mourns you. You don't think about the world you leave behind. It's just darkness. This perspective helped me understand the character's struggles and choices. In The Last of Us, we see characters fighting to survive, even killing one another, but when it's their turn to die, they often face it with acceptance. Ellie told Joel she was prepared to die because she believed it would have given her life meaning. That scene made me reflect on the fragility of life and the significance or insignificance of one life among billions. Similarly, in Joel's final moments, as he looks at Ellie, we see he's ready to accept his fate. He had already come to terms with death long ago, but his final thoughts wasn't for himself, it was for Ellie. Joel didn't save Ellie from the hospital in Part 1 for selfish reasons. He didn't need her to replace Sarah or give him a purpose. He saved her because he wanted her to have the chance at life that Sarah never got. Over time, Joel transformed into someone who only lived for himself and Tommy to someone whose entire reason for living was to protect Ellie. His legacy wasn't about his survival, it was about her future. This game made me reflect on my own relationships, especially with my niece. When she was born, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and responsibility, the same way Joel felt about Sarah and Ellie. I promised myself I would do anything to protect her, even if it meant making difficult choices. This bond has made me more sensitive, more emotional, and more open to expressing my feelings, something I've never thought I'd be comfortable doing. At its core, The Last of Us Part 2 taught me what truly matters in life isn't the fear of death or the legacy you leave behind, but the love and care you give to people you cherish while you're still here. It showed me that, like Joel, we all need something to fight for. And when we can't fight anymore, it's okay to accept the outcome and find peace. The cycles of conflict we see in the game, whether between Abby and Ellie, Joel and Ellie, or even Abby and Lev, ultimately fade away when we're gone. Our thoughts, fears, and struggles vanish, leaving only the impact we've made on others. That's what matters, the love we give and the hope we inspire in the people we leave behind. Picking up the guitar was just one of the ways this game impacted me, but it's the lasting connection that continues to grow every day. Every time I practice, I'm reminded of what Joel taught Ellie, what Ellie carried forward, and the lessons this game taught me about love, survival, and embracing life while we have it. My guitar isn't just an instrument, it's a way to keep Joel and Ellie's story alive, and a reminder that their journey is now a part of mine. This is one of the most passionate I've been about a video in forever. No memes, no gags, just true, raw emotion, and me speaking about the way I feel about a game and how it changed my life. And now that I've made this video, I found closure to this game, and as the game goes back on the shelf, it awaits for me to pick it up another time. And now that this chapter in my life is done, with me finishing this game, it does make me sad that it's over. But with me putting this game back on the shelf, I will always have the memories to be glad that it happened.